Hi there, this is that anxiety chick back again with my friend. I don't really know what his name is, but he definitely helps me sometimes to feel safe and secure, and so I cuddle him at night. It comes in handy, I can tell you. This video is a little bit of an extension really to the last one in some ways, because I've been doing a bit of research, mostly from being in different Facebook groups that I belong to, kind of talking about CBT and exposure for agoraphobia, as we've been talking about before. And basically, I wanted to talk about the effect really of Facebook groups. I'm sorry if the lighting keeps going a bit strange again. I'm afraid I still haven't managed to get that sorted out. The difference in Facebook groups, and also and how they can help you or even hinder you sometimes, and also about how, again, people respond to CBT and exposure therapy, which, as we know, are the gold standard therapies for things like agoraphobia, anxiety, panic disorder. So that's really what I was going to talk about. So basically, let's think. Through my research, I've kind of discovered that there are certain people that respond pretty well. This is mostly through me being in different Facebook groups. And I've discovered that the people that respond really well to exposure therapy and CBT, well, it really does depend on their journey more than anything else. And some people's journeys are very different to others. Some people will say that they've been doing the method, which could be Claire Weekes' method, CBT, with exposure therapy, and they will say, I'm doing really, really well. I've only been doing it for a month or so, and I'm doing great. And sometimes for other people, that can be a little bit, I'm sorry, there's a dog barking outside, which is really distracting. I don't know whether you can hear it or not. That's my dog now, going downstairs. Very difficult when you're trying to do a video. It's one of those little dogs that makes a real racket. God. Anyway, so yeah, it depends on people's journey. Some people, if I can say this, have a simpler journey, as in 3 or 4 or 6 months ago they had a panic attack, something triggered them, they were really, really frightened, they've turned to a Facebook group for help and support, they've received it, they've done the method, they've changed their thinking, they're not reacting to the anxiety, they've done everything they can, and they feel like they're on the road to the recovery. And that's fantastic, that's brilliant, that's great. But then you learn that there's other things happening as well. When you start to explore a little bit deeper, you discover that they're actually on medication, and that their habits perhaps aren't as ingrained as some people's are. So they respond really well. But what about the rest of us? What about the ones that have been going through it for a lot longer, who have had anxiety for many, many years, or agoraphobia for many years, whose habits and thoughts are far more ingrained? What about them? I'm probably a good example of that, because I've had, as you know from before, I said about how I've had anxiety for about 30 years and agoraphobia for about 20. So the method, the Claire Weekes method, CBT, exposure therapy, again works really well, but it probably will take a lot longer. And like I said before in the last video, comparing yourself to other people in groups is not a good idea, especially when you start to look at it all properly and you start to realize that, yeah, they might be recovering, but they may not have completely recovered, and plus there could be other factors that you don't know about. So never compare yourself to somebody else. I can hear my dog now panting. Basically, for people who have been going through anxiety, panic disorder, agoraphobia, or any other kind of anxiety disorder, sometimes require longer and more commitment and increased awareness. The motivation has to be there, and also having a really good support network makes a big difference. And like I've said before, never really underestimate other approaches, you know? I mean, don't just disregard them. There could be something there for you, whether that's acceptance and commitment therapy or hypnotherapy or anything really. It doesn't have to be just be confined to CBT and exposure. There is a good online free resource by somebody called Marius Smook. I think that's how you pronounce it. His surname is Smook, and he shows real commitment using the Claire Weekes approach only to overcome really bad agoraphobia that he had. And it's certainly worth looking at, certainly worth reading, because it shows that when you are totally committed and very, very motivated and really go at it, you can overcome agoraphobia, but it does require a very high level of commitment and motivation. And I'm going to strangle that dog outside in a minute. I don't know whether you can hear him, but I can. Wow, do my head in if I had a dog like that. Right, anyway, Facebook groups. Now, there are so many Facebook groups that are to do with panic, agoraphobia, anxiety, OCD, health anxiety, trauma, oh, you name it, they exist. There are loads out there. But many of them seem to talk only about things like symptoms, medication, how much they're suffering, and sometimes those aren't very beneficial. I know I've found that myself, and I think many others and you will have found that too. So, as I've said before, what I feel to be the best group is that Anxiety Recovery Forum. And if you tap that into your Facebook, that Anxiety Recovery Forum, that anxiety guy, I still think that is the best group because it focuses entirely on the method as opposed to always going on and on about the symptoms and suffering. And don't get me wrong, we are suffering. We go through these symptoms and sometimes they can be really scary and you need some reassurance, but they focus far more on how to get through it. And that's why I would always say that that's the best group on Facebook. It's definitely worth joining. When I was there, I'm not there anymore, but when I was in that group, I found it to be really supportive. I found that through putting videos up really helped me because it inspired me in a way. When I had people saying to me that they were really motivated by what I was doing, it motivated me more, and I think that's really good. And it also helps to create a kind of family network, which sometimes you need, especially when you're feeling a bit isolated. The only downside to it, if you wish to call it that, is sometimes the tough love approach may not work for all. It may not always allow for compassion, and sometimes compassion is needed, especially for people that have gone through trauma. And it may not always allow for all complicating factors, and there can be many, as I've spoken about before. You know, women in particular may be going through hormonal imbalances, and there can be all sorts of things that can interfere with your recovery, and it may not always allow for that groups such as that Anxiety Recovery Forum. But and the other thing as well is when you are comparing yourself to others, that's not such a good thing. But it can be such a big support, and if you are lacking somewhat in the support network, I would certainly recommend it. The only thing is that, I mean, I'm not there anymore in that group, and there can be some drama sometimes because people are very reactive and sensitive. I know that I've been that way myself, and there can be a kind of like a play with egos, and there might be some sycophants that tend to, you know, go along there, and before you know it, they're licking arse. That's it's kind of really annoying. And you can disagree as well. I know I have done that, and often through disagreeing, people don't like it when you disagree, and before you know it, that doesn't work. So I've got quite an inquiring mind. Don't always agree with everybody, and one of the reasons why I'm not there anymore, because I don't know, I always feel the need to support the little guy, and that doesn't always happen in groups. But as I said, it's basically, for a group like that Anxiety Recovery Forum, it's really good to join, and the benefits far outweigh the bad crap. So I would suggest going there. The only thing is, you know, remember that it's there to support you, but you have to do the work yourself, and that's what's really, really important. So Yeah, so I think what I was really trying to cover here was about, you know, that some people will respond really well and really quickly to things like CBT and exposure therapy, but for others, it will take longer, and that progress doesn't have to be measured by how much you do. It's more to do with the fact that you're getting used to getting out there if it's agoraphobia, or you're getting used to the symptoms, you're relaxing with them more, you're not reacting to them, you're not resisting them. It's more about that. That's progress and that's recovery. Going out and being with those feelings and sensations. That's really what it's all about, not how far you walk, or if anything, actually being able to have anxiety wherever you are and being able to face it and float with it and not resist it. That's the real recovery. So that's what I really want to talk about today with my friend, and he's going to say goodbye now, as if the light will stop keep going in and out, and I hope to speak again soon. Lots of love to you all.